Alright, boys. We're ready to a motherfucking pickle right here. Went ahead and ran some of the fuel lines. This is the feed. This is return. I still haven't finished it up. I just did the feed for the same reason, because it's right here. And then from here, I'll just do it whenever the motor's in. Well, we kind of have, if you can see, the motor in, but we're running into a little bit of a dilemma. One is the LS brackets, and then another thing is the transmission. So right now I have the truck, if you can see, I have the truck fully extended, the bags, let's just say at full capacity, full PSI, whatever you want to call it. Since then, I picked it back up and had it more or less all the way collapsed, where the bags would probably have like around 5 PSI or completely dumped out of air. To do that, and the reason I did that is to see my spacing with the drive shaft. I have not moved this factory mount for the transmission cross member. It's in the factory hole off the transmission itself. So what is the kind of dilemma is I need to see. I just shoved it in there to see if it was actually a good distance. That was whenever it was fully dropped. Now I picked it all the way up. Now your angles have changed, and they probably went in more or came out, whoever, what's the deal. So what I'm end up doing is taking it back out, mark it here with a Sharpie or something, and see exactly how much is inside the transmission. If it's not enough, then what has to happen is this whole thing has to slide back another, just to be on the safe side, for me to be satisfied, another 1/2 inch. Once that's said and done, well, I have to move this whole mount. What I have to do is take it apart, unbolt it, make new holes 1/2 inch this way for both sides, top and bottom. And then another thing is the transmission seems like it needs to go back. If you can see, damn it, if you can see a little bit more, there's a lot of room up there. Another pickle that we're running into is the, hold up, god damn it, or the mounts itself. The mounts itself, we can't, the one side goes in, the other one isn't. It's probably off by half an inch. I already tried back and forth, switching plates, turning them around, the whole shebang. If I turn them the opposite way, whenever I had looked them up on Amazon, people have used them on these style trucks, but they had the bracket, as you can see, facing the other way. So instead of it being like this, it was like this, which in turns will push your motor much more forward. I don't need that. I need it to get pushed as far back as possible to be able to use that same transmission, the same drive shaft. And I mean, you still have a lot of room for it to go back. Another dilemma is that the motor is sitting too low, and I'm assuming that's why some people change to a different oil pan, which is much shorter up front. I'm actually hitting the crossmember piece from one side to the other, and then also hitting the, if I'm not mistaken, the steering shaft for the gearbox y todo el pinche pedo. So another thing, either one or two things, I'm going to have to get a different bracket, or I'm going to have to figure something out. The only thing I can think of is to either use these same ones, shim it up to get my motor higher away from all this to make this work. And then since I have to go ahead and push this motor back, just in case that I need to have more inside the actual transmission as far as drive shaft, all I would do is unbolt this. Same thing, slide it over half or a little bit more, and then actually use the bushing. Once I have my height and everything and shimmed up, I would actually move my bushing to wherever I need to, make new holes and mount it, just to make this work. Like I said, we need to have it as far back as possible and actually sitting a little bit higher because it's too far down, touching the crossmember piece for your whole mounting bullshit for this. I had to take off the exhaust manifolds because I think they would hit, or I'm not sure if they did or didn't, but I went ahead and took them off just so it can be an easier process taking them, sticking the motor in. And the good thing I did is because I'm going to have to change the mounts the inside of the motor, it's inside the engine bay itself, so that should be pretty shitty. So I got the bracket back in, pressure washed it, degreased it so it can be better. I might have to replace that since I put degreaser on it. We won't know. But I got extra just in case if it makes noise. Put the new power steering pump in, just mocked up. to see as far as if I'm hitting anything. Just off the naked eye, puro ojo, I can tell that the motor has to get shifted this way a little bit. Like I said, it's not really mounted at all. It's just sitting on a piece of 2x4, kind of leveled. But just to get a more or less of how exactly my fitment is on both sides. One thing is the low pressure line or the return line for the pump itself is on the bottom of the frame, literally under here. So you can't really access it. One of the things, I can cut and make a notch where you can feed it in and then kind of brace it off. Probably weld something to keep that reinforced, because I mean it's real thin as far as a frame. Or I can just bend the hose slightly, that hard line, to wherever I need it to be able to just at least put the hose on and then the clamp. Another thing that I did is I took off the factory to this vehicle power steering lines, because there's more hard line than soft line, and then over the years it's really stiff. You can't really maneuver it how you want it to with the newer style pump. And then this one, as I was taking it off, it kind of kinked, so you know, you kind of go ahead and toss that motherfucker. So what I ended up doing is taking the ones out of the Tahoe, the exact same ones. Like I said, there's more soft line than hard line. And with this one, this is your high pressure. I can actually maneuver it however I need to be able to access it in the back. And this one doesn't really matter. All you need to do is just connect it with a hose clamp or something. Ya quedó. The thing is, I went ahead, since I'm waiting to do this on the weekend, as far as montando the motor and fabricating something up. For the meantime, I went ahead and ran the fuel lines. See if it works. Yeah. AN, both sides coming out. Your fuel filter, 30 microns or some shit like that. I don't know. Like I said, it's just whatever was recommended whenever you do some shit like this. AN. This is just a direct. This is just your return line. In the kit with the braided line, they give you two of these little clamps to hold them together. I'm gonna figure out a way to get at least one clamp to hold this one, and then obviously it will just hold the other one. Same thing here. I just have it with the zip tie, so I know my distances. So I ended up doing, like I said, I'm trying to keep everything as factory as possible, which I think is gonna look a little bit better if I can mount this sucker somewhere around here. I was gonna run the lines up here and then kind of turn them over and then go into the intake, but with the manifolds or the headers, we don't know what style we're going with yet. I don't want to risk hard to have everything cut and it's gonna hit, or I gotta maneuver it somehow. So I ended up doing is trying to mimic the factory route of the fuel lines. So I ended up doing is, this is a bracket off of some other shit, but it's on the truck. I use the clips that come off your harness, like the ones that are on your core support and shit like that. I mean, you already know what clips they are. They just, with the little flat head, they pop them off, whatever. But I put one here, and then I had another bracket and put two more up there. So if you ever come to the situation that you need to remove these, you ain't really got to worry about zip ties, cutting them or whatever, just like that. All you got to do is you get your little screwdriver, pry them off, ya salen. So it looks pretty good. And then if he ever has exhaust done, in the near future, all he has to worry about is just this spot right here, which what I'll probably end up doing is probably find another way to mount it up here to keep it snug to the cab. The blue one is your high pressure. This one is your return. I don't have any more straights, but this will be a little bit better. It's kind of like a 25 or 25, 35 degree, whatever you want to call it. So it's basically going to sit like this. And if so, I'll just probably have it another bracket holding it back in place, but it should be fine. Like that a little bit. All I'm waiting on is for the adapter pieces to be able to run to 6 AN. And then another thing I'm gonna go ahead and get working on is today I found an actual electric fan. The bad thing is I didn't have time nor the right tools. The guy was just kind of selling it in parts. The only thing he actually sold yet was just this to me, so he wasn't trying to part everything out. I asked him if I could keep the pigtails, what do you want to call them, for the electric fans. Got it for basically dirt cheap. But the only thing I'm gonna have my cuñado do is actually just get a aftermarket harness with your grounds, your relays, and all he has to do is tie into the actual computer. And then obviously this truck is going to get tuned, so all that can get done in one time. Some people run factory radiators, some people try to get a different one, but still run the electric fans. We want the electric fans. And the good thing with this, the motor's so far back that we don't have no real issues of anything hitting. So what I end up doing, since this doesn't really sit right, if y'all can see, it doesn't sit flush or recessed inside of the core support because it's hitting on these and it's too tall. Well, you can make a hole on the bottom. You got a little rubber mounts. That's probably an inch, so it's going to drop an inch. Once you figure out your center or wherever you want to do it, you make a hole for it to be recessed in there, sit flush, you know, be mounted pretty sturdy, and then you bring it over. I made my rough outline, put it on there, pushed it as far back as I could, got a screwdriver and just marked it a little bit. Half-ass found my center for this. So what I'm gonna do now is use a stepper bit. So this is how it sits. Come on now. Chingo. You get the gist of it. So it should be good. I'm gonna have to take my time. I think one of these are a little burned up, so it's gonna be a while until I get this shit done. I'm gonna have to wallow it out, but we're gonna get it done. We're gonna get at least the radiator set in place with the electric fans to see how it looks, and then we should be golden. The bad thing is, the only thing I have is the small battery, I think. No? I think this one works. I'm not exactly sure, but we're gonna need something because it's gonna be a while till we get this shit fucking wallowed out. So I want to go ahead and worry about the battery tray. Since this bitch has no fenders, it's gonna be kind of tricky to mount shit to it, because I mean you're gonna have to mount your computer or whatever. I'm gonna have to find a way to mount the battery, because the battery is gonna be on this side, the intake is gonna be on that side. The good thing, that battery tray, I can make some brackets to hold all that shit sturdy and in place. I'm gonna have to have the coolant reservoir over there, so I'm gonna have to figure something out along this area to make it sturdy. Tú eres una perra basura! Finally got this bitch in there. So instead of having the brackets, yeah, I was gonna do some mock-up bullshit. I was gonna use the factory clamshell looking fuckers and put them in there, and trying to cut the little ears off the bracket that is bought and make a little slide action like the fucking ICT billet ones, and I was gonna do a bunch of bullshit. Well, upon further inspection, I kind of fucked up. Not really, kind of. Everything's gonna be a tight fit. So whenever I put this bitch in here, I knew that the transmission was gonna sit in the same spot, center. So I put it in there. Well, kind of find out, you know, all this shit ain't asymmetrical. You know, I mean, some brackets might be a little cocksided or wood pussy this way or that way. So whenever I put the brackets on, like I said, I had tried them where the holes are horizontal and then where the holes are vertical. Vertical so the motor doesn't sit as low. Horizontal to get that spread to reach from one side to the other. But it wasn't. My issue was back here. Since I had one side in, the transmission mounted, I couldn't get the how would you say, the last half on the back side. The front was already lined up more or less, a couple taps with a hammer, and it was going in. Just the back side, it was half off. It was just off. Come to find out, my dumbass, I was thinking in my head, I'm like, well, all I gotta do is just shimmy this over to close the gap. So what I ended up doing is just listening up all this bullshit, all them holes that I made. Since having to put this in the factory spot with the brackets, the transmission is now pushed half forward. So to make all this shit work, we're gonna see if we can use the same drive shaft. I had them two bitches in there, and then my transmission was kicked over. Well, I don't. Hopefully, you know, none of this shit is any kind of issue with being under tension, like with pressure, instead of just sliding easily. Once I got those two in there, all I did was get a ratchet strap, because I had to go over about half or so. So I put this bracket back in the stock location, the same holes, todo pinche pedo, the hardware. I'm gonna leave this one off, because if he ever does an exhaust, he can run the one this way and one this way instead of having to go through that bracket. It shouldn't be no issue as far as support and bullshit. If not, we'll reinforce it some other way later on. But like I was saying, I needed to push over once I had that side mounted and that side mounted from the beginning, all I did, because you can't do that shit by hand and then hold it and tighten it, so I ended up doing is loosening the bottom, and these were already out whenever I shifted it over. That's how I got it to fit in there. What I ended up doing is just getting a ratchet strap, get your ratchet part, wrap it around here, have it coming down here, wrap the hook, loop, and then feed it, and ya quedó, papi. Everything's lined up, sitting in there well. Should be asymmetrical. And then we're barely clearing the steering bar from the idler and pivot arm, so we should be solid, we should be good. If anything, we're gonna modify that, but as far as everything sitting in there, we're fucking solid. The spacing for my, because I knew at the beginning my spacing for my return line for the power steering pump was way into the frame. Right now it's actually showing, so I can kind of bend that out. If not, I'll just make a little notch right there where the little holes at, so I can feed my hose. I'm trying to reuse all these factory pieces so he doesn't have to buy. I mean, might as well use as much as we can from that vehicle. So I ended up using is the factory battery tray for this side. Used the bracket, kind of modified it. These two holes right here line up with the ones that are on the fender itself. All you have to do, which I don't have that piece no more, I think I threw it away, is to make this, well, the way I made this work is I cut most of it off and then use the back, the holes closest to the battery tray. I had to wallow one of them out just a little bit, and then to support the battery here, which, I mean, it ain't 100%, but all I did was use the factory bumper support bracket that goes from here to here on the Tahoe. Use this angle piece with this little slot, if you can see it. Made a hole, put a nut and bolt, washer, whatever you want to call it, and then on this side, all I did was just get the vise, because it is straight. Get the vise, clamp it on there right there where that flat part is, and then just start banging it to make it a 90. Mounted it, 2 holes, tightened it up, and now we're solid. So I got the intake in, bolted on, took it apart, pressure washed it, degreased it so I can look pretty good, clean. I went ahead and threw the belt on there just for the hell of it. I went ahead and ran the heater core lines. I didn't really want to go this route and doing this, but I have to because I don't have that radiator. Well, we didn't opt to get the radiator that has the cap there. We're trying to use all these factory components since we already have them, just to make it easier. Everything's just gonna be plug and play. We ain't gotta get fittings and different size hoses y todo pinche pedo. So I have to run these heater core lines because the only way you can actually add water to this is through here, through the reservoir, and it already has the end. So, and traditionally, if you do have one here, the cap, all you can do is just reroute it back into the pump itself. But in this case, we're gonna have to come in, come back out, and go through the whole bullshit. Well, right now I'm kind of running into the issue that how the hell am I gonna mount this? The new air box or intake box itself, tray, whatever you want to call it. All this is from the Tahoe. This plate, the bottom plate, and this new shit they give you. The only thing, like I said, I'm running into is I don't have nowhere to mount it. I'm gonna have to figure something up. And then also, the only way I can mount this reservoir is on this factory bracket. Is just one position or one spot. That's not really gonna help. It's still gonna be flimsy. So what I have to opt to do is find a way to mount it here. So in doing that, there's only one spot, and it's actually right here. It kind of slides into your fender like a little offset piece that goes like that. This slides in there, has like a little groove to right here, and then right here it has like a lip. Well, you can't really, I don't know how the hell you would explain it. So what I ended up doing is just finding an extra piece. I'm not exactly sure what it came to. I just pulled it from something from the vehicle. I had little ears on it. Maybe it's probably like to right here, and then it just closed off and it was just a box. So I ended up reusing this. I ended up heating it up and bending it a little bit so it can be, how would you say, recessed out. So what I'm gonna do is mount it somewhere on here, wherever it's gonna line up. Hopefully I got somewhere to mount it to since all this shit is cut. So just for reference, mount it there. It has the offset out. And then what I did here, since I can't cut this bracket to make it more flimsy, it was going to be more flimsy if I make a notch in it to try to slide in all the way. I'll just end up cutting the reservoir just a little bit. So as you can see, is grabbing there. It's in the slot, and then it's actually inside this little groove. So it's pretty sturdy. So all I gotta do is just find it, position it, mark it, put it on there, position the mark it, find the distance for the for all this as far as height and torpedo. Whenever the hood's on top, mark it, drill 2 holes, mount it. What I'm going to use is just all this factory hardware that I have. So literally 10 mil. Híjole, that 10 mil fell. That 10 mil, and then just basically the nut and bolt with a big washer.